Welcome to We Might Be Nerds, a podcast about everything from entertainment and technology to science and history. I'm Dylan Critchfield.
I'm Kyle Montgomery.
I'm Sarah Critchfield.
I'm Jacob Montgomery, aka Cookie Monster, still and always.
The Cookie Boy.
The Cookie Boy.
Cookie Boy.
Or also the Quiz Master.
Oh, the Quiz Master.
The Cookie Master.
Yeah.
Quiz Bringer? Does that work? Is that anything?
The
Quiz NPC.
The Quiz Imparter. I don't know.
I mean, unless you brought us cookies.
The Brain Breaker.
Something about cookies. There's cookies here.
Cookies. Internet cookies.
This podcast
Browser cookies.
uses cookies. Do you accept?
This is the new Cookie Cast.
The
We've
tastiest.
done 18 episodes plus a couple of side episodes of this podcast, and we still can't figure out how to start it.
Nope, never have, never will. You're just going to enjoy this cold open, everyone.
Yes, it's so cold. Ooh.
Ooh, like ice cold milk with cookies?
That's not a good segue for the quiz.
But it has cookies. It has to work.
Oh, wait. So instead of cold, we'll talk about hot, which is summer. And I had planned to do this quiz when it was still relevant, when the Olympics were going on. The 2020 Summer Olympics that happened in 2021. And I guess happened. I don't really want to get into the politics or the controversy involved with it.
No.
But
it is weird that it was like a year late.
I know, and all the logos and stuff still said 2020 on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like
awkward
disorienting
at best.
Mm-hmm.
We all did the time warp. It was great.
Yeah.
But did it do the time warp again?
Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Hopefully not again.
I mean, it's like it was like the opposite of like a car model being launched, where it's like, oh, this is the 2022 Toyota Corolla. Oh wait, no, this is
like in reverse.
The 2020 Toyota Corolla in 2021.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing for me is we're about to have more Olympics in about 6 months.
Oh yeah,
like that. Yeah.
Wait, oh my god!
Yeah, Winter Olympics 2022
and
Beijing. Yeah, Beijing Winter Olympics.
So, should be interesting.
Yeah.
It's the year for Olympics, apparently.
Yes.
Thanks,
the year and a half.
Well, yeah. And so, off of that, I looked into, and what the quiz is about is Olympic-themed video games.
Ooh.
Which, thinking about it, I don't think I've ever played any. There's a ton of them.
Are there
There's
really?
So
I only know of
many.
like one series, and it's not great.
I know of one, and I don't think I played it.
I know I haven't played any of them.
So yeah, they are pretty old. So the first question is actually about that.
Oh boy.
Okay.
What
I'm going
are
to
our
give you three
rules?
options, and you can tell me which one is the right answer for the first Olympic-themed video game. Came out for... I can't remember what the name of the system was. TRS-80. Is that like a Windows thing?
Okay. No,
that's
that was the Tandy TRS-80.
yeah, that's Tandy.
It was called Microsoft Decathlon. And I'm not going to ask you how many games were in it because that gives it away. They ask you which year, and that might have been a clue. The TRS-80, did it come out in 1980, 81, or 82?
I'm going to go in on this one a bit. I know the TRS-80 was one of the more popular family home computers in the 80s. It was also fairly early on in the 80s. But I think the biggest thing was it was still tape-driven if you wanted to load programs onto it. Because there's also TRS Color, which came out after. I think that one was 82. So I'm going to say 1981.
All right, 1981.
82 screams to me, and I know nothing about this system.
Oh yeah, I'm answering a question too, aren't I?
I mean, you don't have to. You can just take a 0 for it. Leave it blank.
It'd be about as good as,
I mean, you could just...
Oh, hey, there's TRS-80. It's kind of in there, so I'm going to go for 80.
Yes.
I mean, here's...
It was 80.
It was 80.
Yay!
Because I was about to backtrack and say 80 because that was an Olympic year.
Yes, it was a summer. Well, I can't remember when they split it. 'Cause it used to be the summer and the winter happened in the same year.
It was,
Yeah.
92.
Well, it would have fit into the summer model, which was when the main Olympics,
Yeah, it
every
was the
4-year model.
decathlon, so yeah.
Jake, last year
Dang
for
it.
that was 92, I believe.
Okay.
Because then they immediately had the 94 Winter Olympics, something like that.
Oh, and yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big thing to rush to get it set up.
Yeah.
Yep.
My retro computer knowledge is sketchy at best. Anything before the 90s is
Right, same
mostly
here.
YouTube video acquired, so...
Hey, me too.
And it's kind of tricky because the game actually did come out the following year for the Apple II, and then after that it came out for the IBM PC.
So I answered the IBM PC. So we all
Right.
get a point, right?
Yeah, we all get everybody gets a
Kyle-
point.
No,
We
shush,
have
it's
to
my
let Kyle,
point.
let Kyle have this.
My
It's the
point
first time he's
alone.
had the lead.
I can't believe it. I am winning.
Kyle gets a Bitcoin.
Yes,
If
please.
only.
You gotta dig a little harder for that Bitcoin.
Yeah, and it sounded like super terrible because I think most of like the games were like 1,500 meter run, 400 meter run, and it was just alternating keys to run.
So it was
So
a
Kyle
prototype to QWOP.
Yeah,
I'm glad it
but,
wasn't
like,
QWOP.
simpler.
Oh my god.
Not
Not impossible like QWOP.
Yeah, no, QWOP, just for context, was a late aughts web game where you press QWOP to control like the upper and lower leg muscles of a track runner and try to get the most distance before your player did the splits or fell apart or
Yeah, didn't they
flipped
have
and
like
mangled themselves
super bad
horribly.
ragdoll physics?
Yeah, I think it was a major research institution who made the game too. I will fact check that after the quiz.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a progenitor to like Surgeon Simulator, where it's like purposely awkward controls, and like the point of the game isn't to actually do well; it's just to be kind of like funny, you know.
Yeah. Okay. No, this was actually a independent developer, Bennett Foddy.
Because yeah,
Who
he can't,
made
like, there
the
was
game.
another game that he came out with later, like Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
Yeah, it's all physics, difficult physics-based games. But yeah, the point of QWOP was to individually control the upper and the lower legs, extending and retracting, which is just—it's so hard. Have you guys ever played it?
It's
I
darn
have,
near
and,
impossible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. Heard of it.
Oh
Didn't
my
even get
gosh.
to the point where I could do it before I got too frustrated and stopped, I think.
I usually got negative distance because I made the dude do a backflip instead of
Oh,
running.
well, that's funnier. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, Dylan, you were the one who turned us onto it.
Yeah, I
I may
know.
have been.
You told me about it before.
Anyway, I've interrupted your quiz too long.
Oh no, you're good. This is
No,
all...
interrupt it more so I can have more winning time.
You just want
I
more
need it.
minutes where you're winning.
I need it, please. It's for my ego.
Okay.
So hold on. What do we win when we?
Yeah, what are the
Dethrone Kyle.
stakes?
You want a TRS-A 80? I'll find one. I'm sure they're super
Oh
expensive.
my gosh.
They
That would be
are.
super
Retro
expensive.
computers are so
If you'll
expensive.
steal one
Oh
from
my
museum,
gosh, Jake, you didn't have
it'll
to
be National Treasure 3. I'm going to steal an old computer.
Wait, how are you gonna fit a whole room computer in your car?
It wasn't that
Or we're not
big.
going that old.
No,
it's
not
Not that
old.
retro?
Yeah, TRS
Yeah, this
80
is like
is
the
was
very-
desktop.
They're not that expensive for just the computer itself. You can get for $100.
Oh,
The thing was integrated keyboard, right?
Yeah, it was an integrated keyboard. Anyway,
Fun stuff.
we've fallen off.
nope, this is going to be the whole episode now.
All right, so we're playing for that retro PC.
Question 2.
I'm not paying for it.
Question 2. So that was it was called Microsoft Decathlon. It wasn't officially licensed by the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee. I think I should look that up. I think that's
believe
what
it
it is. But in 1984, Konami came out with the first licensed Olympic game called Track and Field, and it was an arcade
Oh, I've heard of
cabinet.
this.
And it was also in the US, it was called Track and Field. In Japan and Europe, it was called Hyper Olympics, which I think is a much better name.
That is cool.
Such a better name.
Dropped the ball over here.
That's nothing new, Kyle.
No,
Yeah.
We get the
right.
worst. English translated names are always the worst.
And I think, yeah, actually the sequel that came out in the US, it was called, like, I think Hyper Olympics 2 in Japan and Europe, it was just called Hyper Olympics
Huh.
in the US. So, but the first one, track and field, had how many games or how many events in it? 10, 8, or 6?
And this is an arcade title.
Yes.
8.
Down 8 for Sarah. I guess we should pick an order. Yeah, Kyle's next.
Oh,
Last time it
okay.
was, Dylan, Sarah, Kyle.
Oh, no. 8.
Okay.
8 feels right for the, like, appeal of an arcade game. Like, saying, hey, we've got 8 games. It sounds like great marketing.
Like, it feels like the Nintendo rule of 8.
Yeah, it kind of does, but then this is Konami we're talking about, and
Yeah.
84, we're talking like Dig Dug and stuff is popular. I'm gonna say 6 because storage capacity on those cabinets wasn't great, and I doubt Konami would have wanted to spend the money to stuff more games into it.
Yeah, and
So I'm gonna
10,
say 6.
Yeah, and 10, if they would have gone for 10, I imagine they would have
Quality
wanted to...
would have taken a dive.
Well, that and they would have... they would have wanted to name it like Decathlon or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes.
8's good,
8,
but...
Yep. So
8 is correct?
6 is correct.
Oh!
Yeah! Got a point.
Yeah.
If you're
Oh.
educated, thinking it through. So the events in it were the 100-meter dash, the long jump, the javelin, hurdles, the hammer throw, and the high jump.
But no
And-
shot
Nice.
put?
No. Well, I guess the hammer throw, is that different? I can't.
It
I don't know
is.
why. Yeah.
So Crunchbull's not playing this one.
Oh, wait, yeah, the hammer has like the rope on it, right?
Yes.
And then
We're
the
like,
shot
yeah.
put is just the ball.
Yep.
Just chucking cannonballs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this
one-
isn't one of the fancy cabinets either. No, this is just a basic.
Yeah.
It looks like just buttons.
Yeah, it's just 3 buttons, left, right, and action.
Yeah, because I was visualizing. Have you ever seen like the 80s was the time where they started doing you sit inside the cabinet arcade machines, or the ones that have like weird inputs. I didn't know if it was something like that.
Yeah, especially a lot of like the Atari ones, I feel like did that.
Yeah,
Where
Atari
they had
was
like the
big on
weird like turn
input.
wheel for stuff. And
Does it just have like a treadmill in it? Is that what you're saying?
no, this one, yeah, just left, right, and action. So I'm reading, and it's like to do the javelin, you just left, right, and then at the right moment you have to hit action to throw it.
Huh.
So again, doesn't sound very
Exciting.
fun.
Hey,
Not very intuitive, but
but you work with the technology you have at the time and you innovate on that. And at the time, it was probably actually a great solution.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, I
Ooh,
want a
wait.
treadmill game.
a treadmill.
Ha
Yeah,
ha ha ha.
Treadmill simulator.
Make
Treadmill.
working out fun.
You're not even working out. You're just playing someone
just-
working out.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. The only treadmill arcade game that could work is literally something called Walking Simulator. Just walk through different locales with a VR headset, though.
God, I'm
That'd
sure. Like,
work.
what's that? What's that company? The exercise bike company,
Peloton.
Peloton. Yeah, I feel like they're gonna do that. Because they already have
You're
like
probably
custom,
right.
like you have to buy the equipment, which is expensive, and then you have to subscribe to a service to get like all their videos and stuff.
The worst.
Mm-hmm.
So how dark is that? Anyways,
Anyway, moving on.
Question 3.
I already have a correction. Okay, so I said when that track and field game, when there was a sequel, it was actually called Hyper Olympic 84
Ah.
for the 84 Olympics, and that was the first, license game, their first year. And then since then, not every single summer and winter Olympics has had an officially licensed game.
Uh-huh.
So this one, I don't have a multiple choice. I just want you guys to tell me what was the last year that didn't have an officially licensed Olympics game.
That did not?
Did
Oh
not.
my gosh.
Okay.
I mean, sounds like a cheap answer, but 2020 doesn't have one yet, right?
Actually,
Or does it?
I'm not gonna screw my chances.
I'm gonna Price is Right this
And this
and say
isn't,
2020.
I'm gonna, be fair, and it's not counting Sonic and or Mario and Sonic Olympics.
Really?
Those ones
Because
are officially licensed, but it's
yeah,
not.
that's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm talking about this is kind of confusing
actual
question.
year.
So, like Madden 2016, just regular like Olympics and then a year, or like
because like Mario and Sonic at the Olympics is the current thing that they do every time.
right. Well, yeah,
But so I was working on the assumption that it would be before that, and I think those started on the Wii.
yeah. No, but they even. Yeah, I can tell you, I guess I give you a clue, that since those games started, there has also been, in addition to Mario and Sonic go to the Olympics, just regular games called like Olympics, or like the country and then Olympics.
Yeah, I've never heard of or seen these, so...
I've also never really looked for them.
I know.
Well, like, I've been in game stores, though. Like, I browse. If we have to rule those out, 2020 is looking like a good guess, but...
Alright, I do have a guess. I'm going to go for Beijing 2008.
Okay, Beijing 2008 for Kyle.
Sarah, you're locking in 2020, huh?
I have no Olympics knowledge or Olympic video game knowledge,
well,
so I'm going to Price is Right this, and yeah.
It's a fair play. I can't think of any reason why 2016 wouldn't have had one, like especially with all the game companies like milling out like shovelware. I can't, given the like developer climate and the amount of companies that just shovel out these types of games. I'm gonna say actually, it was 2004 or I'm gonna say it was 2004.
Yeah, because that was 2004. All right,
because that was before the age of like shovelware games really being a thing. Like the Wii really brought that out, and there have been development studios that just pump out generic sport game, whatnot.
Yeah,
ever since.
It was like also before like mobile games became a big thing, which is another.
Yeah, 2008 is about the right time frame for that. So and I don't think there would have been I think Winter Olympics would be easily covered because there's so many snowboarding games out there. I think 2006 has to be covered, as does 2002. So I'm going to say 2004.
2004.
Final answer.
All right. Kyle's 2008, and Sarah was just going 2020.
Yep, 2020.
Okay. Well, I guess with the Price is Right rules, Kyle gets it.
Ooh.
The last one was actually 2016.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there was...
Seriously?
Yeah. There was a Nagano Winter Olympics, which was 98. There was a Sydney, which was 2000. Salt Lake, 2002. Athens, 2004. Torino, 2006. Beijing, 08. Vancouver, 2010. London, 2012. There was one called... And then, there was one for Sochi. Yeah. There was
a Rio one. Oh, so the last one
was the Rio one. Yeah,
Rio was the last one.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been one since the 2016 Olympics.
No, there was actually one for this year.
There was?
Yes.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
So it was just 2016.
But they skipped Pyeongchang, huh?
Yeah, there wasn't a Pyeongchang one. Yeah, so
which was 2016.
2018.
Yeah. Well, 2018. Yeah, sorry.
It was Winter Olympics 2018.
I know, it's so confusing.
So just so we're completely clear, and I'm confused. 2016 did not have a game, or was the last one?
Oh, did not.
So I think it did have a Mario and Sonic one.
So that's why I had to eliminate those. I got you.
Yeah,
I see you.
So
stupidly tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're doing by rules of who's closer, Sarah was definitely closer, but
that's true. I mean, you guys, you can decide.
Rock, paper, scissors.
It would make a three-way tie. Do you have a fourth question? Because now we'd be in a three-way tie.
Half a point for both of us.
I have two more. But yeah, I just think it's interesting because now... And then they bounce back and forth between like the developers. Because this one is actually by Sega, which is the same company that does the Mario and Sonic ones.
Yeah. Sega's big on sports games now.
Yeah. And Konami had done it like a little bit before then.
They just make pachinko machines now.
Right. No Castlevania.
That's basically all they produce.
The good old days of Konami DDR. Right. Bring them back.
So we're at 1-1-1.
And Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Right. Okay. So, actually, we kind of spoiled my next question.
Oh no!
There is a series of games, like we said, called Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. They are all officially licensed by the IOC. And they are also the first official crossover between Mario and Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
The first one came out, like Dylan said, November 2007. So it was for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And it was for the Wii. So my question is, how many Mario and Sonic go to the Olympic Games have there been?
Oh,
and I have 4, 5, and 6.
5.
I'm dead in the water on this one.
I can't think of a year they've missed one. Because, like, you always see one if you're going into, like, a GameStop or even, like, passing by a Walmart. There's always one of those on the shelf.
Yeah, and they're always...
Would that be 6? 2020, 18, 16, 12, 10. Yeah, I'm going to say 6.
Okay, you're at 6, 5.
5.
5. Dylan, you gotta stop thinking these through because you keep getting them.
Dang it. I know.
Stop doing math.
Yeah, stop doing math.
Look, you're going into a topic like I know trivia and I have knowledge about because I've worked in the technology
Yes, you know
space. I'm
Sonic.
sorry. I've played video games my whole life. I'm aware. I'm sorry.
Nerd.
Fair. You say that's an insult. Like, we might be nerds. It depends on the topic.
No, we are nerds. I
We
didn't
could
say it
be
as a bad
nerds.
thing. I was just pointing it out. You are
That's
a nerd.
We have the potential to be nerds.
So yeah, they
Well-
did have the first one, like I said, was the 2008, and then they did a 2012, 16, and 20 for all the Summer Olympics, and then they did a Winters game in 2009 for the 2010 ones, and then a Sochi one in 2014. So I guess they did actually miss the 2018.
Oh, they did that too, huh?
Yeah.
Ah.
Huh. I wonder what the
Yee.
deal with that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have to look into that.
Perhaps high tensions with North Korea?
I know. And it's going to be kind of interesting coming up with the Beijing ones, but I don't want to get into that right now.
It's weird how the dynamic has kind of changed a little bit since 2008. So, yeah, that's going to be weird to see.
So wait, what is the score? I should have been keeping track.
Dylan's got 2.
Everyone else is 1.
I think we have 1.5, Sarah.
Okay. So you guys
Yeah, I've
are
only
the
got
team
half.
Oh, I have 1.5. I think there's half Sarah, 1.5 me, and Dylan with 2.
now. A half a
Sarah
point
got the
somehow.
full point because she was the closest.
Okay,
Okay,
fine.
that's
Full
fine.
point. 1, 1, and 2.
I only did that because somebody said Price is Right. I think Sarah said that.
I did. I'll take
thought
my
we-
pity points. I don't know anything about the Olympics or these games. I will take all the pity points I can get.
Mostly multiple choice. Okay, and so the last one I have, talking about all these like officially licensed games, I'm going to go to a not licensed game, which was 1994's Alien Olympics 2044 AD, which came out for the original Game Boy and MS-DOS.
Oh my god.
That's amazing.
In the game, aliens competed in a Summer Olympics on Earth, and they swept the games. And since they thought that was so boring, the aliens started their own Olympics. Because I guess I can't believe a game that came out for the Game Boy has this kind of story. But it's like they came and they were like their own country. So there's like all the countries of Earth and also aliens. And they just won all the medals. So
All
then
of
like, oh, well, we're going to have our own Olympics. And that's the premise of it.
So it's like Elle Woods. What? Like it's hard?
Right.
That's their victory speech.
This one's hard, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and so apparently in the game, yeah, it's a little bit futuristic. Like I said, this one's about the 2044 Alien Olympics. But the game also says that there was the first Alien Olympics. And what year was that? 2012, 2016, or 2020?
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh.
I mean, by current events, I'd say 2020, but I don't want to say 2020.
What were the options again?
2012, 2016, and 2020. Which one was the first Alien Olympics?
Alien Olympics.
The first one they got involved in?
The first one that they actually made their own.
Okay.
So I'm guessing it was like the 90 or the.
I get you.
I'm not going to tell you
Okay.
what year. Never mind. The year before was the regular Olympics. But is it 2012, 2016, or 2020? Was
okay,
the first.
I have a reason for my choice. So, Back to the Future, they go to 2020, right?
Yeah, 2016.
2015.
Do they?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he says never go to 2020. So I'm going to say 2020. Just
Okay.
random
I'm
other
with ya.
pop culture link.
Yep, I'm with you.
Valid.
2020.
2020, okay.
You know, so this game came out in 94.
Yes.
So here's the thing. There are a lot of games in that time frame that, like, Outrun 2019 was a racing game set in 2019 that was considered the far future at the time. So 2020 sets well, but also, like, it's such a fun. It makes it's so easy to say 2020 and just being a multiple 10. It's easy to go there. So I think they would have tried to not take the easy route. And I'm going to say 2016 because that's still far enough to be future, but not close enough, like, to feel somewhat immediate like 2012 would have.
Okay.
It'd be more than 20, just over 20 years out, I think, would be, like, the right zone.
And we're all wrong, aren't we?
2016, and then Kyle
2020.
and Sarah are saying 2020. Again, Dylan thought it through.
Gosh darn it.
So we got Dylan is the master of
Overthinking it.
stupid quiz. And it's getting that, whatever.
I just know,
I
I know
died.
fiction tropes from the time, because, like, what the tropes of when the future is and stuff, because I played video games when I was a kid in the 90s.
Yeah,
So apparently I didn't play enough video games.
That's
and
exactly
I didn't know enough about games, too.
I know. And I would, recommend, we should put a link in it, just look up this game because they have apparently like lighter gravity physics in it, and the events in it are called like laser leaping, laser skis, like 200 qubits splurge. I don't know what that is.
What's the title of this game so people can Google it?
It's Alien Olympics 2044 AD. And then in Europe and Japan, it was just called Alien Olympics.
That's so good.
Released by Ocean, which I don't really know.
Oh, yeah.
Them as a publisher. I can't remember.
That's an older one.
Yeah.
For sure. But damn. That sounds actually like really fun, and like Game Boy games, as simple as they were generally very innovative. So I can see it might have done well. See if I can pull up sales numbers. Alien Olymp.
While he's looking that up, I'm going to throw out a little bit of a... Oh, sorry. You're already there?
I'm already there, dude.
Dang!
So, lighter gravity, list of possible events, 100 qubits sprint, laser leaping, big bounce, lunge leap splat, toxophily, flob flop, saber sling, alien hurl, jetpack tag, and wall jumping.
Oh, boy.
The original parkour.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any sales numbers on that. There's the cutting room floor article on it. Apparently there are like prototypes or something have been found. Sales numbers. DuckDuckGo, don't fail me now.
So I guess it said like in 2012 was the one that they came and beat all the countries at all the sporting events. And then they're like, oh, we're just going to make our own games.
So they started those in 2016. Got it.
So
Wow.
dumb.
I can't believe that logic actually worked. I can't find sales number for the game, but I mean, there's enough info about it to have a cutting room floor article, so that's something.
Wow.
That's something.
The 90s were a hell of a time.
Indeed they
some
were.
random stuff.
Well, anyway. But yeah, speaking of the 90s, we should have had a little bit of a better time in the 90s, really. Especially when it came to how we watched our television.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If everything would have gone right, we easily should have had high-definition television in the 90s. That should have been a thing. And it was a thing. But not in the U.S. Not in most countries.
It was Japan, wasn't it?
It was.
No.
For them, it was a thing in the 80s.
Really?
Not really super well broadcast, but Yeah, the first test of those things was in the 80s. But in order to even get to the 80s, we have to go back to the 70s. Wait, nope. We have to go back to the 60s.
Jeez, really?
Welcome to the 60s.
Of high-definition television.
When I guess legal, I mean, you always have to go back because you can't have the 60s without the 50s.
Oh, boy.
Suddenly we're at the primordial stage.
Looking at a rock. This will be a TV someday.
Nope. Specifically in 1964, the Japan Broadcast System, also known as NHK, kind of for short, they set out to revolutionize the experience of watching television after the success of the 1964 Tokyo Summer Olympics. Oh, boy!
Just went full 5 circles.
Indeed.
Oh.
And research into a higher resolution television system started pretty much as soon as those games ended. But by 1972, NHK had finished developing a television system that was capable of a staggering 1,125 lines of color, a 5:3 aspect ratio, and a 60 hertz refresh rate.
So, just so we're clear, you said 1,125 vertical lines?
Indeed.
That's about 45 more lines than 1080p.
Yep.
The HD we have today, and at 60 frames per second, that's very smooth motion. That's a lot of data.
That's
no mean feat.
That is, however, interlaced. I mean, it's
1080i.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is a huge stark contrast to the 525 line 4:3 nearly 30 hertz system that we had with NTSC? Yeah. So a huge jump forward, and also by the end of that decade, the 70s, there were 3 more systems developed by different broadcast companies, but those wouldn't come to light. Those all kind of had comparable specs, but different aspect ratios, stuff like that. And Sony ended up being the juggernaut in pioneering the recording technologies to complement the system that came out by NHK.
It's always Sony.
Some of the first feasible analog HD cameras and the Muse compression system that they had developed in order to be able to possibly transmit this analog high definition signal out to who could receive it. That standard was, that one ended up being called Muse, which was multiple sub-Nyquist sampling and coding. That was demonstrated for the first time at a conference in Algeria, and then very shortly thereafter in a conference in San Francisco for SMPTE in 1981.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
So we're talking analog broadcast systems.
Indeed.
Was it like with HD radio where we have one primary carrier wave, and then if you have the right equipment, you get the high def version, or were these channels broadcast separately?
These were individual channels.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured as much, but I just had to ask the question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. But by 1985, Sony had a full-fledged high-definition video system, or HDVS for short, and that was demonstrated also in the United States in Los Angeles for the SMPTE technical conference. I keep throwing around SMPTE. Those are the people that are responsible for the color bars. They're the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. So if you see color bars, think SMPTE.
Gotcha.
At that conference, they got to see that staggering 1125i 60 resolution using mostly analog equipment. One of the only digital components was the inch tape stock that they had to for their editor was digital. But it was converted analog to digital and then digital back to analog for broadcast.
So it was a digital storage tape?
Yes.
For the recording?
Indeed.
Neat.
And by that time, they also had a 40-inch color monitor for viewing. I can't even imagine 1985 having a 40-inch television.
It was a 40-inch like CRT.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know it was like rear projection or
That had to weigh a literal ton.
It weighed a lot. From some of the sources I had seen, it took multiple people to lift these things.
Yeah, because I know the rear projection sets we had in the early 2000s were like 400, 500 pounds. They were not light television systems. And we're talking proper glass cathode ray tube. That's giant. Most CRTs...
TV brought to you by Hefty.
Yes.
Yeah, most
Humongous
CRTs
stuff.
in the 90s were, 24, 28 inch at most?
Oh,
in living rooms?
At most.
Anyway.
I mean, we're talking, this is a beefy
So is
boy.
that like what you're getting to? Like, is that the biggest problem with this? Is that there wasn't like the display?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, and also was a little cost prohibitive when it came to that. But, serious video files and stuff like that, and there were people like that around. This was a possible consideration, but they were all leading up to actual television broadcasting. And all of this equipment that was shown for the HDVS system and for broadcasting in the Muse encoding system, all of this was still in prototype until about 1988.
Long development cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Science.
Yeah, they were trying to figure out an international standard to try to get other countries on board, something where you weren't having, NTSC and PAL and CCAM and stuff like that. You would just have one international thing to try to adopt high-definition broadcast. But due to kind of technology gaps between, other countries and Japan and disagreements on, standard specifications, all these talks got pushed back by years. And Japan pushed forward.
Yeah, frequency alone would have been an issue with the United States. The FCC
Oh, for sure.
is very strict about the utilization of certain frequencies. I can imagine that would have interfered with something at the time with U.S. bringing up the first cell towers around that time frame.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was one of the biggest problems was they were really trying to force an international standard instead of coming up with all of their own. It just bogged down the entire process, and it got pushed off for a good 4 years. But yeah, by 1989, however, Japan was willing to actually start testing this thing, along with NHK. Their first test broadcast using Muse, better known later as High Vision. Everyone would have called that High Vision instead of Muse, because, I don't know, Muse is kind of...
Band-like?
General.
Clinical?
It's kind of general. And High Vision kind of it's like how we say HDTV. It's got a ring to it. Like you can actually tell what that means.
Technicolor and all that other stuff they used to use.
Marketable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a marketable kind of thing.
Because Muse sounds like the Muse compression system just sounds clinical, and that's not marketable at all.
No, not at all. But this system was capable of sending an interlaced 2:1 aspect ratio, or 1035i, using those 1125 lines.
Jeez. So, instead of, the 16:9 we have now, we're talking 18:9 aspect ratio. Much stretched out even further, more like
panoramic view.
Yeah, panoramic. Yep.
And actually, they were able to broadcast 8 hours a day by 1991. It was their first day of doing that was November 25th. Which they did that intentionally because of the amount of lines it uses, 1125.
Nice.
Nice.
I'm sure everybody was laughing.
Oh, yeah, sure. But
we appreciate it.
8 hours of HD broadcast on one channel in Japan. But if you wanted to see it, you had to own one of those televisions. And at the rate of production and, it just,
You had to have a floor that could support this behemoth TV.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And very,
especially
very
in
deep
Japan,
pockets.
I feel like space is a huge
Premium.
commodity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very space conscious and try to be efficient in their use of a given living space.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But in order to actually have one of those televisions that would have picked up a broadcast like that, that would have set you back roughly 500,000 yen. And that's about $30,000 1991. Double that,
that's
and
like
you
a
have
house.
double that, and you have basically what it is today. So about $60,000 today would have gotten you one of those TVs to watch.
So you really had to want to watch whatever was on those 8-hour broadcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. And so by 1993, talks of an SD or HD transmission, a digital transmission, began to kind of circulate, and any talks of analog transmission ended. And NTSC, PAL, and CCAM would be the standard for the next 15 years before digital television really became a thing for us as a broadcast standard.
Yeah, because ATSC has basically taken over. I think Japan even uses
Yes.
ATSC.
Yeah, I think they have their...
now.
I do think they have their own standard for digital broadcast. I think it is even more parsed out. But I know that we're dealing with ATSC over here. But if you're curious to see what this kind of resolution would have looked like back then, there are a couple of videos that are on YouTube that are nice preserved original versions of things that were used as demos and also things that were actually used as live television broadcasts back in the 90s.
And it doesn't cost you
a lot
to watch.
It doesn't cost you almost a literal arm and leg.
Oh.
Yay, YouTube. Thank you. Thank you, YouTube historians.
I have a question, Kyle. Like, so those TVs that cost $30,000 in 1992, you said?
91.
91. So, like, would they only be able to pick up, like, that, the HD signal at the time, or were they also...
No. I think you would have had to have a particular, like a cable box for that kind of thing. Okay. Actually, no, it was a satellite broadcast. That's what it was.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask, like, how they broadcasted it.
Yeah, and I think it was able to pick up the lower grade analog signals as well. So it was that, and then if you had that channel, it would be full.
So ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna buy this and I can't even pick up regular TV. Only this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, only this one channel.
The thing about CRTs is they didn't have a set resolution like the LCDs we have, where you have a specific number of dots. It was just how fast are we moving the ray gun in the back of the cathode ray tube, and how wide is the beam. Right. So for lower resolutions, you'd have a wider beam, you'd be drawing less lines. So it's feasible that they could have broadcast that channel, and you'd pick it up with a certain box, and if your TV had the resolution, you get the full resolution. And if it didn't, you could still watch the broadcast just at a lower resolution because your TV wouldn't recognize,
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. I'm not saying it was feasible, because then you get into, like, how many lines we're drawing. We're sending so many instructions to TV. CRTs are weird. But in theory, but in practice, the HD sets would have been able to display a lower res image, no issue.
Oh. Absolutely.
And you did.
So would these TVs lower resolution, if you fed them higher resolution instructions, would they just go on overload? Would it?
So it depends on the set, because with analog TV, it was saying, hey, draw this brightness, and with color TV, this color, and then switch to this color as it's going line by line. But you only had 525 lines on a standard television set. If it was given just the raw instructions for 1,025 lines, or 1,125 lines, it would, in theory, draw a partial image twice and then basically reset. It would have horrible tearing artifacts. It would be unwatchable, because you'd be getting the top part of the frame with all the horizontal bits offset, or you would have the top half of the image and then the bottom half of the image alternating 48 times a second.
So basically a major head trip.
Oh, yes.
And you said it was like interlaced too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
That's the interlacing. It draws one set of lines.
Yeah, then
it draws like the odds and the evens. Yeah.
Right.
So you would have needed a box that knows how to A, interpret the signal, and B, convert it to 525 lines to use it on an SD set.
Mm-hmm.
And not have it be just a seizure fest.
But it's still pretty impressive.
So imagine the Porygon episode of Pokemon on one of these TVs.
We have to talk about banned episodes of Pokemon at some point, because that particular episode was banned everywhere because it caused kids to actually have
about 700 kids simultaneously had a seizure watching that one episode
in Japan. It's awful.
Yeah, poor kids.
Well, this demo tape definitely is not going to cause you a seizure, though. Let's just say that.
That's a relief.
what's the search term folks would use to find that stuff on YouTube, Kyle?
Sure thing. If you were to look up Metamorphosis Sony demo, it would be one of the first results. There are probably multiple ones, but I'll put the best link that I found in the show notes. But this is pulled straight off of a master tape. Well, not straight off of master tape. There's been, things that need to be done to be imported. But quality was preserved. And I believe it was also upscaled as well. So this thing's not only 1080p, I believe it is up to, what is it, a 2160p or something like that?
I believe so. HDVS is going to be probably the search term we want.
Okay, HDVS.
Because, Metamorphosis is one of them, but there's another one that has, 80s dance sequences from the HDVS, high definition video system. Some of them reference video disc.
Gotcha. But this this demo tape does have a portion of it where, what you see is a girl who has, no makeup and stuff like that on at all, kind of slowly assemble an ensemble and then eventually become part of a dance ensemble. So this 5-minute video has got pretty much that going on.
Oh yeah, it moves on into this music video. Yeah, and it's weird to see 90s production values so clearly because it doesn't have any of the digital aftertouches or anything that we come to expect from modern television. It looks like it was just recorded straight on a high definition phone camera with nothing on it.
Absolutely.
And that's actually underselling the quality. It's a lot higher quality than that. It's if you took a modern DSLR and just recorded raw.
It is. It is absolutely breathtaking. The texture and color alone are just fantastic in this thing. But I will point you to one artifact that will make it very apparent that they were using, pre-mid-90s technology. And that's it. If you look at any of the lights or anything like that, there is light streaking that is going on. If there's any light that's being caught off of metal, or they're looking directly into one of those light sources, and they're moving the camera while the light source is...
you get those light artifacts.
You get the light artifacts. Because those cameras that they used back then, the HD camera they used 3 image tubes. It didn't have a digital sensor. It had actual analog image tubes. So you actually would still have that streaking artifact. I just thought that was, for... as nice and crisp of an image that is, to still have those artifacts present was just, it's really jarring.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same effect you get if you see a street light through a window, where you get the streaking. It's like if you were walking around wearing glasses. It's not that severe, but...
Mm-hmm. Or looking at something pretty bright, just like a light bulb in your house or something, and then closing your eyes and you get that kind of the purplish kind of you can kind of see the light bulb still if you close your eyes. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Our eyes react the same exact way as those image tubes. Yep.
It's really cool stuff though.
Yep.
And then that's look up Metamorphosis HDVS on YouTube and you'll get that exact video. Pretty wild stuff.
Yep. There's also another video from the 1994 Lillehammer Winter Olympics that actually has Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding doing their things during figure skating, and it is one of the Japanese broadcasts. But yeah, if you were to look up, I think Tanya Harding HD 94 Lillehammer, you can find the version that is upscaled to 1080p. These are pulled straight from either a WVHS tape, and that's the wide format VHS, still
or
analog,
digital.
Or the DVHS, the digital model. And I kind of love how it's just as if you were watching the Olympics today. The quality is that good, and I love kind of in the beginning you can see some of the judges' stands, and they have their computers. And they have these old monitors that are flickering constantly during
and one of those analog artifacts. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And then like in the stands and stuff, like all the parents and stuff are there for like their like Olympic performers, and they're all holding like video 8 camcorders and VHS-C camcorders and stuff like that. Just
It's
huge honking
so
camcorders
jarring.
in the most garish styles of the 90s. It's just
Yeah, I was
it's
about to say, I'm
amazing
sure
to see that.
iconic styles in clothing were present.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I did notice, the one thing I did notice with that particular video is it did not have the light streaking like in Metamorphosis. I think they had moved on to the image sensors.
That's possible. It is wild to see the past in HD at all.
Mm-hmm.
I always do like these they came too soon technologies that give you like kind of a clear look at history, especially like we all lived in the 90s, and like seeing that time again, that clear again, it's like all the trappings of the time in terms of style and whatnot. I don't know, it's almost unsettling.
Yeah, because I even pulled up like this Olympic one, and like even like the overlay for like the judges' scores and stuff. You can just tell it's from the 90s and not now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like a time anachronism. Like
right.
it's just really weird.
Mm.
It's also super cool.
So what do you think? Do you think we got cheated out of HD TV in the 90s?
I don't know. Like, again,
Not
given
for that cost.
No, like the cost and like the production at scale would not have been feasible in the 90s. And going with the flat panel solutions we came up with was probably the right move. I don't know what they could have done better. I mean, we had the awkward transition from CRT to rear projection HD to flat panels, and smaller and more power efficient is better.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
The stuff we have now, those big CRTs would have been such a power draw. Like, they probably would have rivaled a microwave's power draw at the time. That's
and the kind of
not
thing
something
we
you
can tell
want
when
running
it's
constantly.
not turned on in a room because it's legitimately colder.
Yeah.
Wow.
If there had been a more power efficient way or a means of production that would have been less costly, I think it could have caught on. But I think they probably aimed too high with the resolution. I think if they had aimed for something more reasonable, like 800 lines, which would have brought production costs down, it could have been feasible and would have been seen in like the kind of thing sports bars would have bought to have that clear picture. But I still don't think, even if they had done that and reduced the cost, that we would have seen it mass market and in the home.
Oh yeah, no way. However, that brings me to another thought. Do you think our reaction to HD television would have been different in the 90s compared to what we got in the late 2000s? Like, what are you guys' thoughts?
Like, possibly if it didn't come with such an ugly price tag. Like, that's a big thing.
All down the price on this one.
I think if it had been demoed in places where people could see it, like in person, it would have generated a lot of hype for sure. Because there's hearing about something and reading it in a newspaper or whatever, and like seeing it with your own eyes. Like, you can look at a picture in a magazine or a newspaper all day, but if they had demoed these around local population centers, there would have been hype, and there probably would have been more support behind it rather than just showing it to the tech community.
Yeah, that is very true.
Techies, especially at the time, were incredibly insular. They still are, but like even more so in the 90s, they were not great when it came to showing things to the public.
Mm-hmm. Well, that pretty much wraps up my little 2-part series on basically analog television. We could have had, analog HD television in the 90s. It would have cost an arm and a leg, but it was possible. It was possible back in the 70s, apparently.
I mean, just imagine that acid trip, though. On
jeez.
HD. I'm sorry. Like, the time.
So here's something that just occurred to me. 800 lines would have been pretty feasible by like the late 90s, because by the time we had monitors that supported resolutions of like 1280 by 1024 that were analog monitors, so like just adding the television circuitry to those would have been fairly simple. We're still talking like $1,000 for a TV, but it would have been reasonable. So Just that thought occurred to me. It's also just super cool to see what could have been, and what's left behind from that, because the glimpses are really neat.
Yep, and it's actually kind of funny because I did happen to see mentioned that France's standard for television was actually over 800 lines, but it was monochrome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because like all color television was black and white television with added color information on a different carrier wave.
But yeah, no, their picture was looking pretty sharp. Actually, for the time and just the size of screens, 525 lines really wasn't
wouldn't
bad.
Have mattered. Like,
yeah,
it's the principle of what's good enough for everybody. And like
for the cost.
For the cost, like what's mass marketable, and like what we had was good enough. Because again, I don't think I ever saw a CRT TV above like 24, 28 inches. And the picture was crisp and clear at the time. So,
but nothing like that Metamorphosis tape. Oh my gosh, or that demo disc.
1080p is like our de facto standard now because of cost of production and cost of the sets.
Oh, I should probably mention that that demo Metamorphosis is from 1990.
Oh damn!
Yeah, so they were doing it pretty right at that time. I was not alive.
I was. Kyle's our baby of our show.
I'm the only one who wasn't alive.
The babies.
So, let's get out of the past and look forward a little bit, because we didn't talk about...
No,
we're not looking that far ahead. We're looking at looking at 2025 though.
Oh,
we didn't cover it when it was first announced because there just wasn't enough information, and actually a part of it was leaked ahead of time. But in late June, Microsoft announced Windows 11, and alongside it, the end of life for Windows 10 coming in January 2025. Is it January? Let me double check.
So much for the last operating system they're ever going to make.
That's the thing, right? Because there was a presentation that Microsoft had made that said, Windows 10 is the last Windows you'll ever need. And it set this expectation that, like Mac has OS X and has had it for years and years, they've just released what in the Windows world we would call feature updates. We thought this was the last Windows. And then Microsoft decided, psych, we're doing Windows 11. Deal with it. So, I was wrong about being January. It is October 14th, 2025 is going to be the end of life for Windows 10.
You will be upgraded.
Basically. And, well, maybe not, actually. Here's the thing with Windows 11. You can get it for free, just like Windows 10, if your system is supported, not meets some arbitrary performance metric. Microsoft has released a list of supported processors for both AMD and Intel, and Windows 11 has a fair few strings attached beyond that. So let's go down the list. First of all, you need a Intel 8000 series or AMD Ryzen 2000 series processor or newer in your computer. So basically, if you bought your computer in the last 2 years or built it in the last 2 years, you're probably fine, except you are also required to have a Trusted Platform Module 2.0 installed on your motherboard. A Trusted Platform Module is a small chip that contains certain security-related information and communicates in a secure manner with the processor. It's for trusted operations. One of the key features you'll see a TPM used on is with Windows BitLocker for automatically unlocking the drive on boot in the system it was encrypted on. We see this a lot in the enterprise space. You encrypt it, and then if you put the hard drive in another system for the purpose of data recovery, let's say the motherboard died, well, you have to have this long recovery key from the domain, or a password if you've set it. But most people just use the security module, the TPM, built into their laptop for automatic decryption. I mean, drive encryption is a great security measure, especially if you have sensitive data on a drive. So if someone ripped the hard drive out of your machine, they couldn't get into it. The problem with this is it's now a requirement for Windows 11. And not just for, disk encryption, but for Microsoft's Secure Boot, which they've been pushing since Windows 8 and are now making Secure Boot mandatory since the technology has had time to mature. BIOSes now have UEFI support. Here's where that gets problematic. I've worked with computers as a professional for 11 years now, and I've worked on other people's computers, even in a non-professional context, for 16 plus years. Most individuals will use the same computer, or at least the same core system and upgrade, every 5 to 8 years, which is a stark comparison to the enterprise space where we see companies upgrade their employees' equipment every 3 to 5 years. I'm not talking about like middle class or above income where people tend to try to have the latest and greatest. I'm talking about like your average population. Most people are only upgrading their system every 5 to 8 years. Here's the thing, I just built my computer, a couple years ago. My motherboard can support the Trusted Platform module, but I don't have a Ryzen 2000 series. I have the first generation. So now I'm locked out of Windows 11. Is it 4 years until I have to do anything about it? Sure. Might I get new hardware in the time? Sure. But the reason this is problematic is because people now are going to run the Microsoft check tool to see if they can upgrade to Windows 11. They're going to see, oh, you can't have Windows 11. And, oh, by the way, Windows 10 is dying. They may have machines that could run Windows 11. That's the thing. These Trusted Platform modules, you can just buy them on Amazon. Your motherboard has a particular slot where it goes, and you pop it in, and hey, you'd be Windows 11 compatible. But again, most users don't open their case. Most users don't want to tinker. So we're going to have this cycle of people buying computers just to be able to run Windows 11 when a $40 part could suffice. So it's an e-waste problem. And that's just the compatibility sides of things. Have you guys seen the interface for Windows 11 yet?
Yes, we spent a little bit of time with one of the earlier builds, didn't we?
Yeah, Kyle, you and I had a night where we looked at the leaked build of Windows 11 that came out before it was officially announced. So for the other two, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to drop a image for you.
I feel like I've been purposely avoiding it because I'm going to get sad. It looks like Apple.
It does.
So yeah, from an interface perspective, they are going more towards a Mac OS-like design language. Everything is centered. Everything is using icons. From the bit I used it, if you have multiple instances of an application open, it still stacks just like it does in Sense 7. And that's all fine and well. You can still snap all the icons to the left if you want your start menu on the left. That's fine. What's not so great is that you can't use small icons on the taskbar if you need that vertical screen real estate for work. You can't turn on labels for the icons on the taskbar, so you can't have an icon and then the descriptive text next to it. It has to be just the icon. And you can't break out instances of windows on the taskbar either. And honestly, this is an accessibility issue. When we rolled out Windows 10 in the enterprise space, and in my office, we piloted it with a bunch of users. And the old school style of small icons and having text on the taskbar is ultimately what we ended up using as our standard, because people liked being able to look down, tell exactly what they wanted, click on it, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also a consideration because I had a number of users who used a screen reader, and it was easier for them to make the difference based on the text versus the actual image. Because if you're visually impaired, these icons can kind of meld together. So I see some issues there with that no longer being an option. There was a hack in an earlier Insider build where you could get the old taskbar and those features back, but they've removed it in these later Insider builds. Another potential issue, if you're a privacy-minded individual, is on Windows 11 Home, you will have to have a Microsoft account to sign into Windows. No longer will you be able to make a local account that's just, say, just Jake, and then you put in your password and you're just signed in. You would have to link an email address to a Microsoft account and be online to use your computer. Not necessarily on the internet all the time, but you have to link it to a Microsoft account.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's some game systems like that now. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's be honest, it's for data collection. Microsoft's been collecting metrics in Windows 10, which is why a lot of techies had issues moving to Windows 10 from 7, I mean, the interface looks nice, but they're kind of doing like this. Do you guys remember when Vista was coming around?
Oh, yeah.
I think so. I try to purge it from my brain.
So you remember how they were trying to do this whole frosted glass user interface thing?
Yeah.
Right.
That's back. That's a big part of the Windows 11 design language. The other big thing that Windows Vista brought was widgets. The desktop, like clocks and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Those things that everybody still uses.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I've never used.
Yeah.
I don't know. I miss my sticky notes.
Yeah, well, they're bringing those back too. It kind of feels like they took some stuff from Vista and injected a bit of Mac OS into it, and then slapped it on top of what is otherwise Windows 10 and are releasing it as a new version.
Yeah, I do kind of like how they realized that maybe Windows Vista was one of those too soon platforms as well, and some of the things that they have were good ideas, just not for now. But bringing those back at this time actually feels a lot more appropriate. So props to them for that.
And in fairness, you don't have to have the widgets like on top of your desktop like you did in Vista. There's actually a dedicated widgets panel, so you can click that and see
good.
all those pieces of information. I do like that, but the centered icons I don't care for. In any operating system. The start menu has been completely redesigned, and it's a very Android app drawer-y. One thing like you could do in Windows 8, and editor's note, I meant to say Windows 10 here. All the big panels, you could right-click and remove all those and have functionally an old-school start menu. If you remove all the pinned items from this Windows 11 start menu, it still opens to this pinned tab screen, and you actually have to switch over to all applications. It just gives you this big blank slate with a search bar and a button that says all apps.
That's awkward.
Yeah.
It's clunky. Other than that, I mean, it seems fine. It's basically Windows 10 with a new coat of paint. The frosted glass thing I still kind of take issue with because it does require graphics rendering power, GPU horsepower to do. You can turn it off, but like a lot of people are going to leave the default on and their system's going to perform a little bit slower for it. There are a lot of decisions I find personally questionable, and I have some questions about it from an accessibility standpoint. But with them moving towards harder data collection, if you're on the Home Edition, making it harder to upgrade, making it for what most people is going to feel like having to buy a new computer to get to Windows 11, it's not looking great so far.
Yeah.
That said, if you want to see some previews, there are plenty of demos on YouTube. You don't have to upgrade now. Windows 10 doesn't die till 2025.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Oh.
What? No.
No.
If you can upgrade to 11 and it looks like your thing, I mean, go right ahead. But there are some other things that are being added to it. They're integrating Microsoft Teams into the operating system, which, from personal experience, is not a good thing.
But, it sounds like it'd be better to wait and see if they improve it more in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Before you do an upgrade.
That was definitely the case with Windows 10. By the time Windows 7 end of life came around, it was good and stable. See, but here's another issue with the upgrade path. Microsoft could be doing a lot more to clarify what's supported and what's not. They have a tool. They have a Windows 10, a Windows 11 compatibility tool you can run, but the fact of the matter is, most people are going to run that tool and say, oh, I have to buy a new computer to use Windows 11. And they're going to feel like they're, stuck without an option. So I know I'm kind of sounding sour grapes on it. I mean, for people who are fans of Microsoft and who are fans of this kind of design language and these changes and want Microsoft to kind of cut the cruft, they're going to be happy about this. But coming from a professional standpoint of looking at usability and how the average enterprise user is going to react to this, whether they're used to the small taskbar or the big icons, is it's going to be a test in patience when we're forced to move my enterprise customers to Windows 11. There's just a lot going on with it. They're still updating the pre-release builds, and I'll take another look at it before release. But right now, either you're not going to be able to upgrade to it, or you just stick with 10, or look for some other alternative. But we'll talk more about that in the next episode. I'm doing some research, I'm doing some testing, and I have something I want to talk about next time in regards to everything that's going on with this whole Windows 11 situation. Any other thoughts on Windows 11? I kind of just sat and took a dump on it for about 10 minutes there.
I do kind of find it strange that, they're pushing this whole, you need to have our, a certain spec in order to do this, while there is a huge tech shortage. It's weird timing, and just not a great look for Microsoft.
No, it's not. That's
Did
something
that
I meant to bring up.
timeline shift at all due to the shortage, or was that timeline already set?
They announced this in June, in the middle of this semiconductor shortage. Yeah. Computer component prices are freaking astronomical right now. A processor that went for $80 COVID, or even in early, late 2020, is now going for $160. Video cards that normally would have released for about $250 are now launching at $379. Computer components are very expensive right now, and honestly, they may not go down to the types of levels they were at before. So it's a very real possibility that buying a computer is going to be more expensive over the next 4 years. The demand is a lot higher now because people are working from home now, so they need a new computer. The demand is a lot of what's driving this price, and when you have people who are going to be buying new computers and then getting rid of them, then that becomes an e-waste problem. It's a big compounding issue, and the high system requirements definitely do seem tone deaf from Microsoft in the face of the inability to get a lot of these components.
Mm-hmm. It'll almost make you want to, jump ship a little bit, yeah?
Yeah.
So, if you are a person who finds herself in the market for another, you're in need of a new Microsoft machine, should you lean towards a Windows 11 PC now instead of getting a Win 10 and then having to upgrade later?
So, if you're buying a PC now, you're good.
I mean, if you plan on using it for more than the 4 years.
Yeah, you're going to be fine. If you're at the point where you're ready to buy a computer now, go ahead and do it. The Trusted Platform module has been fairly standard, especially in laptops, since about 2015. If you're buying a laptop, go for it. You're going to be fine. Any laptop's going to have a TPM built in, which is the main thing. And it's going to be using components that are compatible with Windows 11, assuming you're buying new.
Yeah, that's
as far as towers, buying a PC tower isn't something a lot of people are doing right now anyway. And if you are looking to buy a PC tower right now, definitely check the specifications on whatever model you're purchasing. If you're building right now, A, you're paying a lot, and I'm sorry this environment sucks, but B, make sure your motherboard has a Trusted Platform module. If not, you can search Trusted Platform Module 2.0 on Amazon, and you can get one for $40 and socket it in there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The problem is, a lot of people bought new systems before the supply chain got all dorked up, and now it's cost prohibitive to replace those devices, and it may continue to be cost prohibitive up into 2025. Like I said, people were using their computers for 5 to 8 years. That was when we were making leaps and bounds in terms of increases in processing speed and capacity. We're now at a point where we're seeing a lot of diminishing returns in the increase in power and efficiency we see generation over generation. Mostly it's improvement in power efficiency. When it comes to just usability, you may have even less of a reason to upgrade in 2025.
And I feel like with 11, I felt overall like first impressions it was more geared for 1, laptops, and 2, touch compatible devices. It just feels more like something that you would find on like a Surface or something like that.
That's fair. Like I made the Android app drawer comparison for a reason.
Yeah,
but also like that is a feature I forgot to mention. You can natively just install an Android app on Windows 11.
Oh, really?
Which is neat.
That is neat.
I'm not sure how useful it will be, but I mean, I guess if you want a specific app that isn't offered on the Microsoft Store, that's an option to sideload an APK.
Wow.
But yeah, you're right in terms of the visual design language. It is more tablet-esque, more touch-friendly. That said, if they really want to go for touch-friendly, they got to fix that on-screen keyboard because it's hot garbo.
Well, they're at times somewhat on their side, and with everything going on around them, it's kind of, and it gives them further incentive to do that.
How do you guys feel about the potential of being basically forced to upgrade one way or another so soon after dealing with that with Windows 10? Do you think that's kind of tone deaf on the messaging? And as a computer user, like, what are your thoughts on being told, oh, hey, you got to Windows 10, last year when Windows 7 died. Now here, you're going to upgrade again. Like, how does that feel from that perspective, having you two having upgraded to Windows 10 relatively recently?
It's really not great.
No. I mean, it's kind of like we're back like in the 90s almost again. Because like, back then I felt like there was a shorter gap between like the operating systems,
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I know. Because then, I feel like there's like, I don't know, even like 5 years ago, still people that were trying to like run XP.
Yeah.
And then 7. And then, it seemed like there was like a lot longer.
I mean, it has been a lot longer. Windows XP was supported for 10 years. Windows 7 got supported for 10 years. Windows 10, by the end of its support, will have been supported for 10 years. So it's not like...
I guess, we should expect it, yeah.
But the thing is, they did say this is going to be the last Windows you ever need. People are sore about that. And honestly, it's running the same core components as Windows 10 is. It's literally just Windows 10 with a new skin. Granted, they're adding some features in, but at the core, it's still the same operating system as Windows 10 with some new things bolted onto it. So, I mean, you're not paying for it, I guess, is one way to look at it if you're already on Windows 10. But, like, in the case of all 4 of us here, I know none of us with our current computers are going to upgrade to Windows 11.
Not a chance.
We're on even the most modern of these machines because, like, we haven't been buying components since the pandemic. And that the prospect of paying, honestly, $1,500 for what I paid $700 for in total.
Not ideal.
Yeah,
it's disheartening.
It's disheartening. But, I mean, again, this is just how it's going to be for a while. So, not all hope is lost, and that's something I'll talk about on next time. For now, if you have a new computer, you'll be fine. If you can't afford a new computer, and likely won't be able to, you might be out of luck when it comes to upgrading your Windows. And I hate to end on kind of a bleak note, but just how it is. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you spending time with us and listening to our ramblings. Do we have any announcements or plugs for this week?
Yes, I actually have an announcement. For the time being, I'm going to have to figure out how to be a homeschool teacher, so I'll be taking a back seat on hosting. I'll still pop in from time to time to hopefully redeem myself in some quizzes, since I have absolutely been schooled tonight. It's okay, you guys need the W sometime. I'll be back to reclaim my title at some point. But yeah, hopefully you guys are all out there keeping safe and taking care of your mental health too. Like, you gotta look out for you.
Yep, it's a tough time.
Yes.
In the meantime, Jake, Kyle, and I will continue to bring you whatever nerdy things we feel like talking about. So, thank you, Sarah, for joining us in this formative year for the podcast. If nothing else, you've definitely helped us shape the way we do the show and helped us find our footing. And
Well,
we know
thanks
you'll be
for-
back, but just since you're stepping away as from being a mainline host, thank you for everything you've brought. We appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me. It's been fun.
It has been a ton of fun.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I'll make sure to let you know if I have a quiz.
Mhm.
Yes,
We'll
I
bring you
must
right
be
on.
back for quiz night. Maybe I'll bring one.
Sarah will break down the door and be like, "It's quiz time!" Just like the Kool-Aid Man.
Bring
Right.
us a
About to
quiz.
say that, the Kool-Aid Man. Be the quizzy person.
Mm-hmm.
Quiz Queen.
What would the picture be full of?
Knowledge.
Quiz knowledge. Just a bunch
Ooh,
of brains.
that just sounds
Ew.
like blood and gray matter. That sounds disgusting. No thanks, Dylan.
Kool-Aid Man
brains.
doesn't approve. He says, "Oh no."
I'm going to draw
This
this.
is a better way to end it. Yeah, with this.
Yeah, anyway, thank you, Sarah, for hosting the show with us. And thanks again to you, the listener, for joining us on We Might Be Nerds. We will see you in the next one. Until next time, if you enjoyed this episode,
You might be a nerd too.
Yay!
we'll talk to you later.
Yes.